And welcome to the Upside Sports Network. Appreciate you guys joining us for Fantasy Football Draft Night 7. If you've missed all previous videos anyway, please check back with our YouTube. We've done all of these live with you guys, so if you guys want to look back at some of those videos, see how drafts have gone before you finally draft your league. Hopefully you guys get your draft in before the league year starts tomorrow, or before the first game anyway kicks off tomorrow. We will have that live for you guys here on YouTube at 7:30 tomorrow evening. Hopefully I'll get off in time for the kickoff, or I might be a couple of plays late. I really hope I get back in time from work, though. First game of the year, Bills versus Rams. It's going to be fantastic. Hope you guys are here to join the community, have fun, chat along with us for the first game of the NFL year. Kind of like Christmas for us who are football fans. Hopefully it'll be a great game. Two of the best teams in the league. Hopefully a Super Bowl preview, at least for some of those fans anyway. But it's going to be a great game at either event. But without further ado, let's get right back into fantasy football. For those of you who are wondering, I use ESPN standard football leagues anyway. PPR scoring. I've done fantasy football for 20 years, so I don't play on beginner. Snake drafts are a lot easier to get into and get into a draft right away. I'll also do auction drafts every now and again, but those are tougher. You have to wait a lot longer in order to get into a league, just because people don't sign up for those quite as frequently, especially this late in the evening. You'd probably be waiting for a good 20 minutes to try to get a league going. So we're just going to go ahead and do a snake draft. So without further ado, let's get it underway. Alrighty. There we go. You guys can kind of see my screen now. Like I mentioned, I do use ESPN. If you guys use Yahoo or whatever else you guys are using, Underdog. I know there's a whole bunch of fantasy football, sites out there nowadays. But I use ESPN. Been doing it for 20 years. I'm not about to change. I'm just more comfortable with the settings there. So that's what we're going to go with. As I mentioned, we're going to go with Pro, PPR, and we're going to go with Snake. We're going to go with Draft Now. We're going to go ahead and click Join a League. This one's almost already full. There we go. Each one that I do with you guys live here, I'm going ahead and changing the name to Upside. That way you guys can kind of see as we go along. I'll keep you updated on where we stand in all those leagues. Obviously, we don't want to finish dead last. I've never finished dead last in a league in fantasy. Have I won my fair share? Obviously. I wouldn't keep playing for 20 years if I wasn't at least decent at fantasy football. But one of my favorite guys for fantasy football, if you've watched fantasy football coverage over the last 20 years, you've probably heard of the name Matthew Berry. He's probably been my favorite analyst for fantasy football pretty much that entire time. He's the one guy that actually got it mainstream on ESPN. In my opinion, he's the godfather of fantasy football. Just the way he's been able to, relay the message of fantasy football, get people into it who might not otherwise be, get wives of husbands, get celebrities involved to try to make it more appealing to people who aren't necessarily football fans and get them into fantasy football and help grow the sport. Makes it a lot more interesting. You get people who are very serious about it, and then you also get the casual fan as well. So, all walks of life are welcome in fantasy football. If you guys are, rookies to fantasy football, you're welcome to, play on beginner mode without PPR. You'll be more heavily based on running backs, that kind of thing. But for me, I've been doing this a little while. We're going to start on pro. Alrighty, got about 30 seconds here. Hopefully we'll be drafting at somewhere outside of the middle of the draft. I want to avoid picks 4, 5, 6, and 7 pretty much at all costs, just because the later rounds, it's a lot tougher to plan your picks accordingly. You don't want to, miss out on a player that I like, and so I like to draft based off of, who could be available at my next pick and the following pick after that. When it's spaced out like that, it's a lot more difficult to predict. However, the top end of your draft looks a lot nicer just because you can get the player that you like here and there in rounds 1 through 3, 1 through 4. But after round 5 to 7, and then again from 9 to 10, it gets a little bit more difficult. Let's go ahead and enter the draft room and see what spot we get. Anything but the middle. And I get the middle! Yay! Okay, not. Another tough league to draft here. I've seen some people draft as many as 2 teams at the exact same time. We might actually do that just to see how it goes. Appreciate you guys joining us. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. The like button as well. It really does help us out. Appreciate all 10 of you guys joining us right now. Thank you very much. We got the 5th pick in this draft. We'll probably end up with either Justin Jefferson or Austin Eckler, hopefully. I prefer not Cooper Kupp, just because I want a little bit more upside out of my wide receiver. I like Justin Jefferson a tick more. In my opinion, Jefferson's probably wide receiver 1 in a draft. 2 would be probably Kupp just because of the security. Chase would be 3, although I'd still probably draft Chase ahead of him. Again, upside. For running backs, it's hard to go outside of 1 and 2 with Taylor and McCaffrey just because on a point per game basis, they're just monsters. They don't really have off weeks except for when they're injured or out of the lineup. I mean, even when they play injured, they still put up points. Just look at Christian McCaffrey last year. Even when he was nicked up, he still was putting up 20 points a game. And then, of course, there were times when he didn't play at all, and then you'd be able to set your roster differently. Obviously, you'd prefer to have the 300 points in your lineup and not just 100 points. Back into the draft here in round 1, you're looking at Henry, Harris, Cook, and Kamara. If I were drafting out of those running backs, it'd be Najee 1, Henry 2, Cook 3, Kamara 4. Do I think they're all worth that draft value? No. Got 30 seconds here until we start up. And here we go. Everybody seems to be present and accounted for in this draft, so hopefully this draft will move quickly in the early rounds with people paying attention to their picks and not checking in and checking out on their phones. Come on, Jazz. You have the second pick. This should not be that hard. There you go. Cooper Kupp, that's just fine. So one of the three players that I like will be left: McCaffrey, Eckler, or Jefferson. Okay. Now the question becomes Eckler or Jefferson. I really like Eckler. I think Jefferson, though, is in a different stratosphere as far as possible production. So I'm going to go with Jefferson. All right, so now I got to look at my running backs in round probably 3 and 4 because there's not really a running back in the second round that I like. Deebo Samuel's the one guy I'm hoping falls, but it's very rare for him to fall in a draft past where his rank is. It's happened a few times, and I've actually been the beneficiary of those, but not a lot. You need to see players get reached for, like, Saquon Barkley or quarterbacks, or people who aren't paying attention to drafts or know how fantasy works, in order for a guy like Deebo Samuel to really fall that far. And 4 picks might not sound like a lot, but this early in a draft, that's massive. Like, for instance, Ja'Marr Chase going to 8, only 2 spots. That's a decent drop for Ja'Marr Chase. Alvin Kamara getting drafted at 9, I think is a little rich. Team Johnston should have an easy pick of Harris and then the wide receiver of his choice. Adams, Samuel, or Diggs. I would prefer Samuel out of that group. He prefers Diggs. Works for me. And now running backs are going to be a little bit rare here at the top of the second round, so you could see a few reaches. Maybe if you get a fan of a certain team, say like you get a Dolphin fan in here, and they're like, I want Tyreek Hill. Cool, take him. He's one player I'm avoiding in the draft this year. There goes Mixon, that'll work for me. Got 3 picks left. Hoping another running back will come off the board. Maybe somebody's not been paying attention. If you've been paying any attention to my previous videos, you know how far out on Leonard Fournette I am. Honestly, I think he's probably going to finish the season past running back 13 or running back 30. I just think he's going to be that bad this year. There goes Aaron Jones, a guy I really like in round 3. And of course, there goes Deebo, naturally. So this is what I mean as far as drafting in the middle of the round. I don't get the guy at the top of the round that I like in Deebo Samuel, and now I'm getting hurt already in round 3 by guys getting drafted out of position. Gonna have to do that here. I don't trust Swift in a league yet. I don't trust Williams in a league yet. Lamb is uncertain with the Cowboys offense. I'm out on Fournette. I'm out on Andrews as far as the number 1 tight end. I'm out on Tyreek Hill. So that's literally the entire top of the board right now. So that means Kelsey and Connor are my next best options here. I think I'm going to go ahead and lock up the running back first in Connor. Just because I think he's better than anybody else still on the board as far as the running back spot. and I need one. I'm just fine with these 14 through 20 guys coming off the board. Maybe I'll get a shot at Travis Kelce. Maybe. I doubt it, but I might get it. Should he be gone, then we're probably going to be looking at T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Nick Chubb, Jalen Waddle, someone in that group. Still hoping for Travis Kelce, though. Not the worst thing if we don't get him, then I'll be left with T. Higgins. Just fine by me. Again, I'm not expecting this draft to go very well because it's a middle of the order draft or middle of the round draft. But we'll see how good of a team we can put together. There goes Kelce. My top player left on my board right now, T. Higgins. I'm curious to see if it'll let me draft another league real quick. We might do that here as we get into the later rounds. If you guys want to draft right along with us, go ahead and sign up for a league. There goes Keenan Allen. Now Higgins is the top receiver left on the board. Things are not looking great for him to be available at my next pick. There goes Javonte. Somebody's got to take Fournette out of this group and Andrews, hopefully. And then I'll be left with Higgins. That'd work perfectly for me. Don't take Higgins. If Higgins does go, DJ Moore's probably the next best receiver. I'm not sure if I'd go receiver, though. I'd probably go Nick Chubb just to lock up another good running back option. There goes Josh Allen and Pittman. Okay. Well, I've already told you guys how far out on Leonard Fournette I am. Andrews is still on the board, but for me, I'd rather have the receiver in T. Higgins because I think Kyle Pitts is a better tight end, so I'll let somebody else make that investment in Andrews at this point. Once Andrews goes, then I'm probably going to target Kyle Pitts. So possibly in the next pick, I will be looking at him. There goes Andrews. And there goes Nick Chubb. Darn. Team Jimmy Mack. What does his roster look like? Just out of curiosity. He's got Cook, Jones, and Chubb. 3 good running backs. He's going to need a receiver. Maybe I could tempt him with T. Higgins and maybe another receiver for Aaron Jones later on. We'll see. I do like to propose a few trades anyway throughout the season. I'm not going to be the guy in your fantasy league sending you like 18 trade requests a week. There goes Kyle Pitts. Darn. DJ Moore is probably the most valuable piece left on the board, followed by Jalen Waddle. And then it gets a little bare here in the 4th and 5th round. I'm out on Mike Evans. I just never have trusted him in fantasy. One week he'll have 35 points. The next 3 weeks he won't get over 5. And he'll absolutely kill your lineup every week. I'd rather have a target monster like DJ Moore, who I can probably count between 10 to 25 points a week. And with better quarterback play, probably closer to 15 to 25. There goes Ezekiel Elliott. He was probably the best rusher left on the board. I'm out on Cam Akers, so no big deal there. Looks like I'll probably end up with DJ Moore here, so my receivers will be very, very nice. But I will have to target running backs in the middle rounds, probably a lot earlier than some of you might expect. There goes Mike Evans, just fine with that. Give me DJ Moore all day long. I think the only player I've reached for is James Conner, just to get myself a number 1 running back. Other than that, I've pretty much gone what the auto draft would pick. If I had gone auto draft, I would probably have ended up with, what's his name, DeAndre Swift out of the Lions instead, so I'd still have a good back. I just think Swift is more of a number 2 running back this year, not a number 1. Running backs that I like ahead of him that are drafted after him anyway would be James Conner, Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, players like that. Welcome in. Let's see. I got Kamara, Diggs, Keenan, Herbert, Waller, and Devontae Smith. I'm out on Devontae Smith. I don't think that offense can support a second fantasy relevant receiver. Out on Kamara just because I don't think he's going to be great. Other than that, I like Diggs. That's probably one of your top 10 receivers in the league. Herbert has potential to be the number 1 quarterback. I like Waller, but depends on where you drafted him at. Keenan Allen as well. He's kind of steady production, but you got to worry about injuries. I do like that you're stacking Herbert and Keenan, so I'm guessing you have a little bit of faith in that San Diego offense this year. Got a couple of quarterbacks coming off the board in Herbert and Mahomes here. 4 picks until ours. I'm out on Williams, Cooks, Montgomery, Etienne, Hall, and Brown. Metcalf as well, so the next best player looks like Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, J.K. Dobbins, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I already have 3 really good receivers, though. Elijah Mitchell's probably the next running back I want. Yeah, 6th or 7th would be good. There goes Waller here in the 5th. Don't do that. I mean, the value here is with Sutton, honestly. Then I would be able to trade one of my receivers. But I'm really putting myself behind the 8 ball with running backs just because there's only a few running backs I think are worth being a number 2. Mitchell is one of them. But I'm going to go ahead and take Sutton here. There's 4 receivers now on my roster. This is probably the most receiver heavy I've ever been. Again, I don't like drafting in the middle of a round. And this is why. You're subject to how this board falls. Love Lance as your backup quarterback. He's my lottery ticket this year. He's my number 1 lottery ticket. Number 2 would be Joe Burrow. And if you can still count Jalen Hurts a lottery ticket, but I think he's a lock to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year. If you paid attention to my division video or Super Bowl prediction video earlier today, you kind of heard my thoughts on Jalen Hurts. Let's go ahead and take a look at the quarterback market and see what's left. Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts is about it. And then you get into the later round guys that I really like, and Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, players like that. Got a little bit of a run on running backs. Dobbins is the best one left on the board right now. Josh Jacobs going really early. Sorry, not buying it. Now, if it had been McDaniels, or if Mike McDaniels was the head coach instead of Josh McDaniels in Vegas, then I would say yes, Josh Jacobs is still your guy. But he's not. Josh McDaniels comes from a system where they haven't had a fantasy relevant, top 10 running back in what, 15 years? There goes Dobbins. Now the best running back is clearly Elijah Mitchell. I think I have to go Mitchell here with my next pick. As much as I would like to go ahead and get Jalen Hurts, I have to get a good backup running back. There goes Kittle. Looks like I'll be streaming my tight end in this league as well. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he would be my 5th receiver in this league. Sutton's going to be great for you this year. I would still rather have Jerry Jeudy just because at that spot, at the 2 or 3 wide receiver, I want a chance to have a top. I wouldn't say Jerry Jeudy's top 10. I think he's more likely to be a top 15 guy than Sutton, or at least have a better chance of it. We're going to go ahead and take Mitchell here now that Hurts is off the board for sure. I have zero interest in Kyler Murray. He's already gone. Lamar Jackson, I'm okay with him, but I'd rather have him as a value. So if he's there at my next pick, possibly. Sutton's a very strong flex, though. Neither? I mean, you drafted Hall a lot higher, so I'd go Hall. But Gordon's still going to get some work in that Denver offense, especially early. But yeah, I would go Breece Hall and hope he splits carries with Michael Carter and hopefully break 10 to 15 points in a couple of games. Do I think it's likely? No. But that's why I don't draft Hall. Amon-Ra St. Brown might actually be there. Lamar Jackson could be there with my next pick. Zach Ertz is reached for really early. Holy smokes. He's my last tight end on the board that's not, or that would be outside of streaming. Okay. Do we go with another receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown? Do we go with Lamar Jackson? Breece, or Dameon Pierce is, he's going to be gone by my next pick, and I really want Dameon Pierce. I got to take him. So far, I like my team quite a bit. Just the value is really insane for Amon-Ra St. Brown right now. To get him this late, somebody's going to get an absolute steal. Lamar Jackson is still on the board at pick 69. Usually he's drafted probably in the 50s. There goes Lamar. I would have drafted Lamar, but there's other quarterbacks that I like, and I have to shore up my running back spot. Pierce is the last high-quality RB2 left on the block. The only other one left with the possibility of being that is A.J. Dillon. And I don't want A.J. as my third back. I'd rather have him as my fourth. Still, if you have A.J. as your third, that's not a bad thing. But here, as we go into the eighth round, there's still some good wide receivers left. Kirk and Thielen at the top of my list. There goes Rodgers. Looks like we're tapping into that quarterback group now. I might have to take a quarterback here. We'll see. If Kirk and Thielen are still there, I'd be hard-pressed to not take them, even though I've got 4 legit receivers right now. The advantage of having that is now I can turn around and trade some of that for a good RB2 type player. Antonio Gibson, another guy. Running back group is getting very, very thin. And there goes Stevenson. A run on running backs here. The value here is with receivers. Let's look at the quarterback room that's left. Tom Brady would be 1 for me. Burrow 2. Lance 3. Prescott 4. Stafford 5. Wilson 6. There goes another running back. Holy smokes. What's the running back room look like? Thin. Hawkinson is still on the board for a tight end. I don't want to draft him. I want Brady. Is he going to be there by my next pick? Allen. Sweeney needs a quarterback. Sweeney's the only one that needs a quarterback out of the next few teams. He might go Burrow. I'd be fine with that. As long as Brady's still there by my next pick, or Burrow. Okay, so looking back at the players left, I've still got 2 elite wide receivers on the board. Well, not elite, but elite at this point in the draft. Thielen and Kirk. I've drafted Kirk in quite a few leagues. I've got Thielen in 1. I already have Jefferson. Let's go with Thielen, just on the chance that he's more of a wide receiver 2. He has wide receiver 2 upside, but he's more of a wide receiver 3 or 4. Oh, there's Brady. I knew Sweeney was going to take a quarterback. I was just hoping it was Burrow. I still like Burrow. I just like Brady a little bit more. His floor is a little higher for me. But Burrow, though, is going to be the quarterback that leads to 2 fantasy-relevant top 10 wide receivers. So I can't really go wrong there. I really like my receiver group, though. There goes Dawson Knox going in round 8. A full 75 picks earlier than expected. Ouch. But I'm not reaching for a tight end. I don't like anybody better than anybody else at this point. Kirk is still on the board with 4 picks left until me. I've got 5 receivers. There's no way I can take another one. I can't. I need at least 1 more running back. I still like Raheem Mostert and Henderson for really late in the draft, but I want A.J. Dillon for my 4th running back. We're getting about to the territory for him to be drafted. Hawkinson still on the board for tight end. We'll put him in the queue. There goes Kirk, so at least that takes away that temptation. Pollard, that's fine. I think I'm going to go ahead and take Burrow here. Hawkinson's off the board. That's fine. Only way I was going to take Hawkinson if he was there in a couple of rounds, which he wasn't going to be. There goes Amari Cooper. That's just fine. Okay. Let's go ahead and lock up Joe Burrow. Let's look at the running back room as well. A.J. Dillon is right there. He's going to be gone by my next pick, but I really want him to be there. We'll see. He's by far the best running back, in my opinion, on the board. Harrison Edmonds in committees. And while Dillon's a clear number 2 to Jones, it sounds like they're going to use 2 backs pretty much all game long out of Green Bay. They're going to either deploy one as a receiver or have one in there as a decoy. Plus, Rodgers has worked with both for a couple of years now. So he's got comfort with them. And he's the one quarterback in the league where comfort really matters. There goes Damian Harris. This is not looking good for A.J. Dillon to be there. Goddard, that's fine. Prescott, fine. This draft is going very quickly, especially for having the entire league not auto-draft one pick. That's pretty good. This is not common, by the way. Now's the area of the draft where you might see somebody who's new to fantasy take a defense or a kicker. Yeah, don't do that. Not in round 9 or 10. This is where you should be rounding out your bench, getting the last 2 or 3 players that you really like. Like for me, that would be A.J. Dillon, that would be Raheem Mostert, that would be Romeo Doubs, that would be Darrell Henderson, that would be Michael Gallup. That way I get the extra bench spot. Those type of players, Rashard Penny. Looks like we might actually have an auto draft here if this guy doesn't pick it up. There goes Lance. That one hurts just a little bit. But I might not carry a backup quarterback at this point. There goes Penny, a little bit surprising. Just to check in on the quarterbacks. I mean, Matthew Stafford is there. I could take him as my backup to Burrow. But at this point, I'd really rather have A.J. Dillon. I mean, on the board, we still have Drake London, Elijah Moore, Tyler Lockett. 3 picks left. Come on, Dillon, make it to me. If A.J. Dillon makes it to me, this is complete malpractice by the other players in this league. Lolette was the one guy I was worried might take Dillon because he reached for a running back last time. Leave A.J. Dillon alone. Take Tony, take Edmonds, take Lockett, take London. Anybody else. He took Tony. All right. A.J. Dillon falls to us, so my running back position is pretty secure. I actually feel just fine with the group that we have. We don't need to make a trade. I have 5 receivers that I really like. My running back room, I've got a clear number 1. I've got 2 guys who have, I think, are solid locks to be number 2 running backs this year. A.J. Dillon could be an outside chance to be a 3rd. Really like this team. Of course, the one hole on it, of course, is tight end. Let's look at the ones that are left on the board. Freiermuth doesn't excite me. Komet, same thing. Gesicki, eh. Fant, no thanks. Njoku, no thanks. Irv Smith, possibly. I like Gesicki, Irv Smith out of that group, honestly. And then if I go really late in the draft, I like Evan Ingram out of Jacksonville as a red zone target. Not necessarily in a PPR league, he's not going to get a lot of catches, which does worry me. But maybe more of a Gesicki would make more sense. But they have a lot of mouths to feed in that Miami offense now. Watch Stafford be there on my next selection. That would be insane. To get a very good, high-quality backup quarterback. Come on. Don't really have any interest in Drake London at any point in the draft. Even if he was there in round 16, I probably still would fade him. Wow. Stafford is still there. Sweeney could take him. He's light on quarterback. He only has Brady. He takes the Bills' defense. Works for me. Packers defense. Okay. Apparently this entire league has decided to give me the best roster possible aside from tight end. Works just fine for me. I'll just turn around and try to trade for a tight end like Kyle Pitts. Maybe make a package deal. At this point, I'm looking for advantages on my roster. One guy who gives me an advantage on the roster would be a guy like Michael Gallup, because I can immediately put him on IR and pick up a guy on waivers. That's the advantage of drafting somebody who is already on IR. Raheem Mostert's probably my most valuable running back left, and then Darrell Henderson. So if I do go with Gallup, I'd have to hope one of those running backs makes it to free agency. I don't think they will. They never do. Appreciate you guys joining us. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Hit that like button as well. Really appreciate all the support. See if we can push this subscriber count on upwards. I think we were at 653 at the beginning of the day. See if we can get a couple of y'all to join. There goes Lazard, Freiermuth. It's fine. Mostert's probably my best running back option. Maybe there's a team out there that has 2 tight ends on it. I'll have to check after the draft. I'll check here actually while we're waiting. So Team Honeycutt has 2 tight ends. Possibly. They have a couple pieces I could move around as well. Maybe Trey Lance and Kittle for a couple of other pieces. Hunter Henry, no. Goddard, no. Andrews, no. Schultz, no. Ertz, maybe. He does have Ertz and Hawkinson, so I could make a low-cost trade acquisition of Ertz here. That would make some sense. Does have the Bills defense. He's got some decent receivers, but not a lot. His running back room is nice. Not great, but nice. And his quarterback, Tom Brady, I do like. So Sweeney could be a possibility. Jazz Beats. He's got Knox. I'm not trading for Knox. Stepas has Kelsey. I think that's pretty much everybody that I've looked at except for the team that has Kyle Pitts. There goes George Pickens off the board. Ouch. He's one of the guys I was hoping could fall into later rounds, or fall into waivers. Elijah Moore is still on the board. I want to look at what he did last year. 43 catches. They're projecting a big step up in production. Second season, second round rookie. 13 racked up 5 touchdowns on 38 catches, 18 fantasy points per game. 7th best among receivers. Week 13, quad injury ended his season early, but not before we saw his ceiling. A bit undersized, has more competition for targets, but he's on the rise at age 22. Should benefit from a second-year leap from Wilson. Best viewed as a wide receiver 3 or flex. I think I'll take the wild card here in Moore. Possibly. Mostert is still there. I don't want to lose him. But I do have Henderson also just in case if I do. I'll go ahead and take the wild card in Moore. Getting him at pick, what, 116? 107? Yeah, 116 is the pick I got Elijah Moore at. That's insane value again at receiver. I don't understand these teams that are drafting. There goes Lockett finally at 120, at pick 120. That's about right, though, honestly, but based on where I think he's going to go. However, I still think there's better receivers on the board, so he could have even gone later. Julio Jones should go undrafted in your league. No point in drafting him this year. Still need a tight end, kicker, and defense. Again, I'm probably going to wait to the final 3 rounds to draft all of those spots. Just the way the draft fell to me, I was able to load up on both wide receiver and then running back. For whatever reason, they just left me really good options at running back later on in the rounds. Nyheim Hines finally went off the board. Watch him lead me Raheem Mostert. That'd be unbelievable if he's still there. Brian Robinson's another guy you could stash. Just want to check up on the news for him. I don't really believe in Robinson this year. Maybe next year. Alright, we have to go with Mostert here, I believe. I'd really like Darrell Henderson as another option there, but my roster's already pretty full. Now, tight end, I still got Gesicki on the board. Kmet is there. Out of those two, I'd probably go Gesicki. Let's see what Cole Kmet's projection is. Last year had 60 receptions. No touchdowns, though. A little bit surprising. I don't know, maybe Cole Kmet could be a breakout candidate. But he's a tight end 2 at best, in my opinion. Let's look at the news on him just to see if anything's really popped. Three for 36 and a touchdown in Chicago's preseason against Cleveland. He is going to be the second option on a bad offense versus Gesicki, which is probably the third option on a decent offense. That's kind of your argument you have to consider. Bad offense versus good. Tua versus Justin Fields. Probably take Cole Kmet here. I was leaning Gesicki just because of the track record of success. But they have more mouths to feed there. Last year he had 165 fantasy points, 73 receptions. That number figures to go down. Touchdowns also figures to go down. They had horrible running back play last year. They should have much better running back play this year. I mean, Mike McDaniels did have George Kittle to work with, so maybe you could look at Kittle as the upside here for Gesicki. But then again, San Francisco didn't have the likes of Tyreek Hill on one side and Waddle on the other. They did have Debo. I don't like it because I don't like the Chicago Bears offense at all, but I'm leaning towards Kmet. If both are gone for whatever reason, then I'd be looking at either Irv Smith, Tyler Higbee, or Evan Ingram. Welcome back, DeAndre. Zeke and Judy for DJ Moore. Top 10 receiver for a chance at a top 15 and a guaranteed top 20 running back in Zeke. That's pretty fair value on both sides. What would be the second player you'd get back in the DJ Moore trade? Now, if you're telling me you get back a late round guy like Henderson, sign me up all day long. There goes Kmet. So Gesicki is probably the choice here. Name recognition, I might be able to trade Gesicki a little bit easier. But what's the second name you'd get back in a DJ Moore trade? Right now it's fairly even. It's Zeke and Judy for DJ Moore. Although for just draft capital upside anyway, that hurts from a draft perspective anyway. I am curious who the second piece would be in that trade. I'm hoping a running back of some kind. If they've got a late round running back on their roster, if they throw him in as a throw in that deal just to kind of even out the trade for both teams player wise, I'd probably say yes. There are very few running backs, even bad ones, that would make it tip the scales into your favor. But I would really like DJ Moore. But that's a pretty darn fair offer. I wouldn't go any higher than that for DJ Moore, just because you're giving up, what, a 4th and a 5th round pick? Oh. He's that high on Kareem Hunt? That's insane, but I would try just Judy and Zeke and then see if he can go for somebody on the end of his bench. Look at the end of his bench and see what he's got. McManus is off the board. He's the kicker I really like this year. What kickers are left anyway? Folk is probably the best option by a mile. Let's take Folk, and hopefully the Denver defense is still there for me. There goes Gallup. Somebody being smart with the roster there. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily want Hunt this year. I don't know what to make of his production, but if you could get Hunt as the backup as the running back filler in that one, obviously the other owner thinks he's a lot more than filler. So look for somebody on the very end of his bench who he probably would consider trade filler. Well, that sucks. Still got the chance at my defense here. Kicker. Bench. Looks like I'm going to get my defense. Wow. This I thought would be my worst draft just based on how it started. But this is probably one of my best ones I've done. And not through any fault of my own. It's just pure luck. Just look at my roster. I started with Jefferson and then I reached for Connor because I wanted a top end running back just to make sure I didn't get stuck with nobody. And then my 3rd round pick, Higgins. My 4th round pick, DJ Moore. My 5th round pick, Cameron Sutton. My 6th, Elijah Mitchell. 7, Pierce. 8, Thielen. 9, I think we went with Burrow. 10, we went with Dillon. 11, Stafford. 12, Moore. 13, Mostart. 14, Gesicki. 15, Folk. And 16, Browns defense. That's a healthy roster considering where I started from. Wow. Alright, just so you guys can see how the trade process works, we're going to go ahead and pick another team that has Kyle Pitts just to see if we can upgrade our tight end spot. I just can't remember which team it was that drafted him. Let's go to players, add players, search, Pitts. I just want to see if I can get Pitts as my tight end. Now, we're going to go ahead and say trade there after we select him. Now, looking at my roster, we're going to say we're going to trade Gesicki. That way, at least we have our, 1-for-1 offer. That way, at least they have a tight end on their roster. Okay, now what of equivalent value could I give him? For him, Pitts was... Najee was 1, Diggs 2, Deontay 3... Pitts was his 4th round pick. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm not giving up DJ Moore for him. So I might have to give up 2 receivers for Pitts here. I like Sutton as my bench receiver. But I'd have to move him if I want to make this trade. He's got decent receivers, though. Although behind him, he doesn't have much. He's got Penny, Edwards-Helaire, Dobbins. He doesn't have any stalwarts at running back, but then again, I don't really have anybody of name recognition to fill that void either. This is an unlikely to be accepted trade, but we'll go ahead and do Sutton and Gesicki for Pitts and maybe Lazard, even though I don't really like him this year. Maybe Bateman, maybe Penny. Maybe Penny here. Maybe. It's not a horrible trade. But I'm trading a bench piece for a guy I'm going to start every week. If you get Judy and Zeke for Connor is actually not a bad offer. You get an immediate fill-in for Connor if you're the Connor owner. You get the upside of Judy there at wide receiver if you have a hole there. I would still prefer Connor just because I'm that high on him. Lockett does worry me as your second wide receiver. But Connor is that special. Alright, we're just going to offer this trade just to see if it happens. I doubt it. Other teams, let's go ahead and just check in on a couple of them. There was a team with Zach Ertz that I could have made a deal with. This roster here, though, is not bad. Kelsey, remember, though, was a very high pick. I'd have to do like Higgins, Gesicki, and another piece. I'd probably have to get Kirk involved. Not worth the trade there. Yeah, just trying to figure out some trade ideas. If you guys have any. I am looking for a tight end. Just because I don't like Gesicki a lot. I mean, he's a decent option for a back-end streaming tight end. Okay, now here we go. This is the team that has Ertz. So a back-end tight end option. They got Brady, so let's say if I get Brady back, let's put Stafford in the deal for the quarterback. Gesicki for the tight end, although he has Hawkinson, so maybe I don't need to include him. Just from my roster, though, I'd rather get rid of him. I don't really like much else he has, though. Waddle. I could do more for Waddle. That's a slight downgrade, but still keeps me with an elite receiver. That's a pretty decent trade. More for Waddle. I'm losing the better receiver just a hair. Gesicki for Ertz. Ertz is better. Brady for Stafford. Brady's better. But the value, obviously, at the top anyway, is more in Waddle. If they say yes, that's a great trade for me. It's a fairly even deal, though. Alright, so there's some trades anyway. Let's go ahead and log into another league. Welcome in Monier. Half PPR. Thielen, Juju. Gordon's not going to be good in half-point PPR. Claypool could be. Hunt, okay. Edmonds, okay. Are you trying to pick up a player to draft out of that group? My pick would be Juju, then Thielen. I guess Claypool because he's the receiver. Edmonds, Hunt, and then Gordon. I'm down on Hunt this year. I just don't see the value there unless Chubb goes down again. Oh, I got to pick two of those to start? Oh, that's easy. Thielen and Juju. Set it and forget it. That's not even close. Thielen and Juju all day long. Just because it's early, Juju might be a little bit weaker to start. So in that case, you might want to put Edmonds in there just because you can guarantee the production. But I'd rather have Thielen and Juju. All right, let's go ahead and set another league to draft. Join league. Go ahead and join a draft as well. Have some fun with us. Shoot, I might draft 2 leagues at once here. We'll see. This will be my 18th team that I've drafted. I think I've drafted like 16 of them with you guys. Got about a minute until the draft starts here. All right. If you have any questions about your league, anything at all, go ahead and send them to us. If you haven't hit that subscribe button already, please do so. Again, tomorrow we'll be joining you guys live watching the Rams and Bills game. Ten seconds left. Please give us anything other than middle of the draft yet again. Alright, fingers crossed. Anything but 5 or 6. Should I be happy with 7 and 4 at this point? Hey, I get the second pick, alright. But that means I don't get Debo. Oh well. Two and a half minutes here until the start. We went over fantasy rankings last week, or yesterday anyway, as far as the different tiers of running back, wide receiver, but we'll go ahead and do that while we wait. A wide receiver 1 is a guy in the top 10. For those of you who haven't played fantasy before, those are guys you want to target as your first wide receiver on your roster. Wide receiver 2 are receivers that you could play as your second wide receiver. And then 3 could be your flex or bench, and then 4 and so forth and so on, and down the line goes. For fantasy rankings anyway, here ESPN has 1 through 10 ranked for you guys. 1 Kupp, 2 Jefferson, 3 Chase, 4 Adams, 5 Debo, 6 Diggs, 7 Lamb, 8 Hill, 9 Allen, and 10 Higgins. 1 for me, though, is going to be Justin Jefferson, 2 Kupp, 3 Chase, 4 Debo, 5 Diggs, 6 Adams. So basically our top 6 are still the same, just small fluctuations in there. 7, I would put DJ Moore at 7. 8 would be Waddle. 9 would be Lamb. And 10 would be T. Higgins. So your top end wide receivers 2 would be Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman, Deontay Johnson, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans. Mike Evans I consider more of a mid-tier wide receiver 2. "30 seconds here until the draft." That's kind of your rankings there. Brandon Cooks, I think, is more of a wide receiver 3 or 4, so you can drop him a little bit lower. Marquise Brown, I think, is a clear wide receiver 4. Metcalf is a wide receiver 3. Williams is a wide receiver 3. Sutton should be a wide receiver 2. Judy's a wide receiver 2. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a 2. And Allen Robinson is a high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2. I am on the clock, and Jonathan Taylor is there for me. Holy smokes. Wow. They passed on Jonathan Taylor to go with Christian McCaffrey. Okay. All right, so opinion, Hunter Henry or David Njoku? Neither, but if I had to pick between the two, I think Hunter Henry's probably the better get out of that group just because I don't trust Jacoby Brissett. Um, yeah. That's probably the best answer I can give you. Hunter Henry had some good games last year with the Patriots. I think another year in that system, the rapport he's building with Mac Jones, he's the better tight end out of that group. He's the one tight end out of that group that he seems to trust. I would go Hunter Henry. Now, David Njoku might be the better player on paper, but I think Hunter Henry's going to give you better production. Justin Jefferson falls to 7 in this draft. Good pick for them. No real surprises, just a lot of jumbled up pieces here in the first round. But still basically where we thought we would be after 9 picks, with Kamara as the best player left. Might get some interesting draft pieces here. I seriously doubt Debo will fall all the way to me, just because we're going to have an auto pick here, and then we got another auto pick at pick 15. So that's 3 autos. The best I could hope for right now would be Stephon Diggs, unless Beckerman anyway, gets in this draft. In which case, then it falls right into that range that I really like players again, in James Conner, Travis Kelce, Aaron Jones, T. Higgins, DJ Moore. Thank you guys for joining us. If you haven't hit that subscribe button already, please do so. Ask any questions you have about your fantasy league. I know a lot of you guys play season long. There's also daily, keeper leagues. If you're a beginner or a pro, auction draft or snake, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We'll give you guys weekly fantasy advice. Go over the waiver wire with you guys on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That way Tuesday you know who's available and who to target. And then on Wednesday, you can go ahead and grab those guys when they become available. Hey, we might get lucky here. The auto draft came back. Seriously doubt it, but a guy can dream. Maybe there's a Saquon fan or a guy who wants Josh Allen really, really, really bad. Henry and Njoku, cut one of them. You don't need to carry both of them. Grab somebody off of the waiver wire, and that can fill your flex a little bit better than Njoku could. But I would keep Henry. Debo and Diggs are still there. There goes Diggs. Debo should go here, but who knows? Fournette goes. Leave me Debo. Please leave me Debo. Maybe they see running backs going. There goes Mixon. I have a chance. Yes! Debo Samuel at pick 19. Book it all day long. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And now I'm going to get one of my 3 best targets here at the round 3 as well. Kelce, Conner, and Jones, and I don't need to force the pick either. There goes Kelce. That's fine. I can get Pitts probably in my next turn around the draft, hopefully. Wow. That is a massive steal of Debo here, round 2, pick 9. Sorry, I just watched the crazy ending in the Rangers-Astros game. Rangers played great defense to get the guy going from third to home in the 10th inning. And then the next pitch, they go ahead and do a intentional walk to force the bases loaded again and out at any base, and throw a wild pitch to end the game. Just yuck. And here's James Conner just sitting for me. Woohoo! Thank you. For those of you who haven't been paying attention, I'm really high on James Conner this year. I think he's a top 10 running back. I think that's not a question at this point. I think Aaron Jones is a top 10 running back. That's not a question at this point either. Looks like we might have a couple of auto drafts coming up here later, though. A little disappointing. So I might not get that lucky again, but in either event, to get Jonathan Taylor, Debo Samuel, and James Conner, insane. For those of you just joining us and that are new to the Upside Sports Network, we cover the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, and MLB. We're going to do some fantasy stuff this year for football. We're going to do quite a bit of live streaming of games. We're going to be doing a lot of fantasy waiver wire stuff during the week. We're going to cover live baseball games as well. When the NBA season gets underway, same kind of a thing. Not sure if we'll do fantasy for basketball. We'll have to see how many of you guys actually want that. But football always has a big market, especially fantasy football. Looks like we're going to lose a couple of receivers here. Probably more Akers, Pittman, and McLaurin. Then we'll be left with Chubb. I'd watch them leave Chubb on the board. The guy I want, though, is Kyle Pitts. I'll give you my take on every single one of those players. Out, 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 and out. I don't want any part of that group of players. I know my girlfriend's actually a huge New Orleans Saints fan, and Kamara honestly should have been suspended this year based on what he did at the Pro Bowl last year. There's video evidence. He admitted to it, apologized to the guy after putting him in the hospital, after literally assaulting him. The guy didn't even put up a fight, had to go to the hospital due to injuries. He's lucky that he suffered as few injuries as he did compared to what Kamara actually did to him. Immediately after Kamara finally stopped seeing red, he immediately apologized to the guy. He knew he messed up, and there's videotape of every bit of it. But in either event, Kamara is likely to be suspended at least some of the games next year. But for this year's, for fantasy purposes, I'm out on Kamara just because I don't think he's a great running back anymore. You saw when Winston went down with injury, he was, two yards in a pile of dust. Michael Thomas has his ankle strapped together by, gum at this point. That's going to go down. You saw his offseason issues the past couple of years with the coaching staff, the issues that he's had there. He finally seems to at least smoothed it over for now, but it seems like there was real acrimony on both sides. We'll see how that ends up being resolved. Kyle Pitts and Josh Allen off the board. Hopefully we get Jalen Waddle here if I had to pick a player I want. But Michael Thomas I'm out on. Landry should be on waivers, honestly. There's no reason to draft him this year. Olave is the one player in this team who could have some upside, but you're talking about wide receiver 4 at best. I think if he breaks into wide receiver 3, you could really have something next year. But Olave for me is wide receiver 4, and I don't want any part of a guy whose ceiling is a wide receiver 4. I want more home runs later in my draft. Romeo Doubs from Green Bay I think has a much higher ceiling, and he's being drafted a full 150 spots later. Looks like we might get our wish of Waddle here. Probably the best player left on the board. Josh Jacobs, thank you. There's my second wide receiver. Very happy with that choice. Deontay Johnson's the best player left. Other players that I'd consider, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. Patrick Mahomes is still there. I've yet to draft Patrick Mahomes this year. I might just do it just so I can have him on one team. I don't know. We'll see. ETN, get out of here with that pick. And Herbert, you don't even take the best quarterback left? Deontay Johnson is just sitting there. This is the part of the draft that I don't like because look at these players that I don't want any part of. Mike Williams, no. Cooks, no. Montgomery, no. Hall, no. Brown, no. Metcalf, no. Finally getting to Judy, Sutton, and Dobbins and Brown. Mooney, no. Davis, yes. But then, the next pick that I like is way down here. Cortland Sutton is a really good wide receiver 2, or wide receiver 3. It's still a little bit of a reach for Mahomes. Sutton is unlikely to be there at my next pick. I like waiting on quarterbacks anyway. I'm not going to do it. I have to go with a safe bet here. Deontay Johnson or Sutton. I like Jerry Jeudy more for upside, but I want more of a steady guy at my flex spot. I've got a lot of home run hitters already on my roster. I just don't want to mess it up. Let's go ahead and take Sutton, I believe. Happy with that selection. Now watch Patrick Mahomes still be there with my next pick. That'd be hilarious. So far, a really strong team. Elite running backs. 2 of them that I think are RB1s. I got 2 receivers that I think are wide receiver 1s. Darren Waller taking this early? Get out of here. Appreciate you guys joining us. Go ahead and let us know if you're drafting right now. Hit that subscribe button. See if we can break 660 before the end of the night. Be really nice. Trying to keep our ascent going anyway. Gained quite a few of you guys during the baseball season. Now with football getting underway. I hope more of you guys like football. Just saying. We're getting into football season. You're going to see a lot of it. Dalton Schultz this early? Oh my god. I might be stuck with tight ends that I have to stream again. George Kittle's still left. He's probably the next pick for me, one of them. Along with Zach Ertz, but that's much later on. We'll see how it goes. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Got several of you guys to already do so, so thank you guys if you've already done so. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Brandon Cooks before Deontay Johnson. What? There goes Kittle, so I don't have to worry about tight end now. Right now, the best 2 players on the board, Judy and Dobbins and Mahomes. I think Mahomes is still there. Yep, he is. No way he makes it to my next selection. Of course, I said that about Deebo Samuel, and there he sits on my roster. About to have 3 auto picks come off the board. That's just fine. I don't want any of those players. Montgomery, Hall, or Metcalf. Let those auto drafts take all of them. Oh my. Patrick Mahomes in that group. Oh well. Let's look at the quarterback room just in case. Pretty much picked over from the top guys. Only a couple I like left. Hurts 1, Jackson 2 out of that group. There goes Dobbins. That's fine. Murray, the quarterback I don't like out of the 3 that are left. That's fine. 4 picks left here. Judy, Brown, Davis, and Mitchell. Probably my favorite targets left. No way Jalen Hurts gets to my next pick because we've already seen Jackson now come off. There goes Judy. There's my roster right now for you guys. Taylor, Connor, Samuel, Waddle, and Sutton. I'd probably have the only roster in fantasy football that's not an auction draft that has Jonathan Taylor and Samuel on it. Just insane that they let him fall that late. And Kareem Hunt taken way too early. Okay. Now, let's look at the Team Monkeys. He already has Herbert, so he's not going to take Hurts. So I can get Hurts with pick 62. Here I just need to take the best player on the board. I've already got 3 receivers. I could upgrade both spots, the running back and wide receiver here. I've got a little bit of a bye week issue with my receivers. I do need a 3rd running back. I want Dameon Pierce with one of my next 2 picks after this one. If I go Mitchell here, I have a nice group of running backs already, 1 and 2. My running back 3 and 4 aren't going to play much. Like what? I'm going to go ahead and take Amon-Ra. I just want to make sure I load up on my receivers. Those are hard for me to get on the waiver wire. Running backs, I usually can get one good one on waiver wire during the year. What other issues do I have on this one, Zach? Well, I was debating between that and Elijah Mitchell. The only reason I didn't take Elijah Mitchell's there is because I want Pierce. If I don't get Pierce later on, then I almost have to get A.J. Dillon. I could wait on quarterback yet again, but Hurts is probably the best target right now. And I could get one of these receivers later as well. You can see it on the screen right now. Just look literally, hold on, let me point to the right direction first. Right down here, in the blue on the side of the screen. There goes Elijah Mitchell anyway. He was the running back I was thinking of. We're going to go ahead and take Jalen Hurts here. It's a little bit of a reach, but quarterback is going quickly. I got Jonathan Taylor with the number 2 pick. At pick number 19, I got Deebo Samuel. I mean, that's probably the latest I've ever seen him fall in a draft. James Conner, I followed that up with in round 3. Waddle in round 4. Sutton round 5. Amon-Ra round 6. Hurts round 7. And there goes Russell Wilson. Why you draft him at this point, I don't know. Somebody reaching quite a bit going after Kareem Hunt and Russell Wilson there. Don't understand it. Pretty good squad so far. 4 receivers, 2 runners. I got my of the elite quarterbacks that are there this year outside of Josh Allen. Hurts is probably my number 2 target as far as quarterbacks. Because Mahomes is usually overdrafted. Same thing with Herbert. Of the later round quarterbacks, I like Brady a lot more than most out there. Yeah, it's a free league. There goes Brady. Now I can wait a lot later for my backup quarterback, but it looks like teams are reaching for quarterbacks now. That Hurts is off the board. Now my tight end spot is going to be a little bit weak here, but I like Zach Ertz later on in round probably 9 or 10. We'll see. My next pick will be Dameon Pierce as long as he's there. And then hopefully one of these receivers here. The receivers that I left, I like Schuster 1, Thielen 2, Kirk 3, and that's pretty much it. But Pierce is my top target at the moment. There goes Prescott and Thielen. PPR, yes. There goes Schuster, that's fine. Just leave me Pierce, that's all I want. Bateman, that's fine. I got 4 of them. Samuel, Waddle, Sutton. That's a very good top 3. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, my 4th. He's going to be on my bench every single week. There goes Christian Kirk. So we're going to go ahead and take Pierce here first. He's by far the best running back on the board. That's my 3rd running back. There goes Renfro, that's fine. I don't like anybody else left here. Elijah Moore, I've drafted him in my last league in round 13 or something like that. I'm just not very high on him in general, but he's a lottery ticket. I want locks at this point in the draft. Because I've already got a really good roster position-wise. I just don't want to screw it up. So I'm thinking Ertz for my tight end spot because he's the last one available that I like. And then circling back with A.J. Dillon in the next round. And then receivers later on that I like. You know, lottery tickets that I'm looking at. You know, very late round picks. Yeah, that's what I like in, you know, past round 10 or 11. But right now I still don't have a starting tight end. And Ertz by far is the best on the board. I mean, the next best option after Ertz is Goddard, and I don't think he's going to be very good with that offense. And then we're looking at Freiermuth, Kmet, Knox, you know, Hunter Henry. I don't like Kmet, though. You can ask as many as you want bite size. That's just fine. Just hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. Thank you. But last question, then I'll stop. One of these 5 wide receivers, what 2 would you start? Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Cooks, Woods, or Lockett? Amon-Ra. I don't like many of those receivers, but you have to go with your top 2, Mike Williams and Amon-Ra. Well, I think Ertz is going to be a target monster there in Arizona early on because no Hopkins. They're counting on Marquise Brown, and he's got the drops. I think when he needs a first round, he's going to go to Ertz. And they don't have their pass catching back they did last year in Edmonds. Not PPR. I think I'd still go Mike Williams and Amon-Ra. All right. I still got Joe Burrow on the board. We'll put him on the queue anyway. A.J. Dillon, Trey Lance. Penny has interest to me. I already have my tight end, so Cole Kmet, nope. There goes Burrow. Gallup I like just because of the roster flexibility he would give me by being allowed to put him on our week 1. Raheem Mostart. Oh, there goes A.J. Dillon. Dang it. Somebody's paying attention. A little bit of a run on running backs there, too. I was hoping I'd get to the next pick with A.J. Dillon. Oh, well. There goes Penny as well. I might be a little thin at running back as far as a backup, but I really like Pierce as my number 3. Probably end up with Mostart as my number 4 and Henderson as my number 5. Trey Lance has the most upside of the quarterbacks left. Probably take him. Mo Alley Cox. Get out of here with that. Ramondre Stevenson is on the board and doesn't really do anything for me. Devontae Smith's already off the board. I already have Hurts, but I'd like a good backup, and there's not much talent left on the board here. I'll take Lance. Locks up my backup quarterback spot. I still need a running back, but I can wait another pick or two for that. Looks like I'll probably have Stevenson to choose from. I don't like any of these receivers at all. I mean, once we get down this late in the draft, I'm looking for roster flexibility, like in a guy like Gallup that I can put on IR and then pick up somebody in waivers. I also like Raheem Mostart for my running back spot. I do need running back, but you do have Ramondre still on the board. I just don't like New England running backs almost in any year. I never take defense this early. Defense is gone anyway. I just don't like this draft pick here. The value here says Stevenson. I do need a running back, but I'd rather have Raheem Mostart. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I get him. Really bad value, but I don't care. That's where I was hoping to get A.J. Dillon. Running back's going to be a little thin on the bench, but I got elite runners anyway. I'm never really going to play my 4th running back. But at least I got a home run hitter in Mostart. Three bench spots left. I think Penny was already drafted as well. Got 4 auto picks in between here and there as well. Stafford is the last quarterback, but I don't like carrying 3 quarterbacks. Thank you for taking him. Lazard, don't care. He's going to finish the year in Green Bay as the number 3. Boyd has some decent value, but I'd rather have Gallup. Let's go ahead and put Henderson on our queue. And then we'll put Romeo as well. Romeo's not going to be a factor for probably the first 4 weeks. If you're starting him in your first 4 weeks, you done messed up your draft. Stevenson is still there. He's going to be gone. Remove that temptation. I have zero interest in Wilson, Tony, Olave, Claypool, Carter. Just fine. Take all those guys off the board. I think Gallup is probably my next selection just so I have the roster flexibility. Not as good of a draft as last time as far as depth, but top end talent in this draft is a little bit better. Appreciate you guys joining us, all 8 of y'all. Treylon Burks, no interest in him anyway. Most of these receivers this late in the draft I don't really care for unless they're an absolute possibility to be something later on in the season. Of course, not all of them are going to be. That's why they're being drafted this late. Matt Ryan, somebody's really an Indianapolis fan. Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and take Gallup here first. Najee 10, and then got the luxury of Diggs, Higgins, Evans, Cooks, RB2 Patterson, though. That comes with high volume and wide receiver. 12-team PPR. That's actually pretty decent to end up with Diggs and Higgins. Evans, okay, but that's still pretty good value. Brandon Cooks, okay. RB2 is a little weak, but it's a 12-team league. They're going to have somebody produce in that offense. Pitts, number 1. I'd probably take Patterson second out of that offense. Other than that, I wouldn't want anybody else. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take Henderson here. He's the last running back that I like anyway in this draft. I still have 1 bench spot available. That'll probably go to Romeo. And then we'll go to our defense and kickers. Yeah, I do too. He's going to be the second wide receiver in a good Cowboys offense. Last year they were able to support 2 fantasy relevant receivers in Cooper and Lamb. while still having Pollard and Elliott and Schultz. Now, am I expecting CeeDee Lamb production from Gallup? No. But if I get, 10 to 15 points a game on a bye week, that's all I really be asking out of him. Not bad. Tyler Bass, for some reason, being drafted in the 13th round. No thanks. I think I've already decided what we're going to do for our Friday baseball game. I told you guys we would probably be doing one of the later games. Yeah, I might be racing home because the Rangers, I'm a big Texas Rangers fan. They have decided to go ahead and call up Josh Young, their number one prospect. He was going to be their starting third baseman at the beginning of the year, had a torn labrum, but it looks like he's back now. Very curious to see how his debut goes. It'll be against the Toronto Blue Jays in Arlington. If I could be there for the game myself, I would be, but unfortunately I have to work. And then I'd have to drive 2 hours to get there. So by the time I'd get there, the game would just be about ending. No thanks. But tomorrow we'll be having the Rams and Bills game for you guys. Feel free to join the community, chat, have some fun, talk some smack with your fellow teams. If you're a 49er fan, give it to the Rams. If you're a Rams fan, give it right back. There goes the 49er defense. Some Dane Dunning, yeah. I really liked him when he was with the Washington Nationals as a prospect, and then came over in a trade to the White Sox in that Adam Eaton deal, I believe, along with Giolito. That was a big trade. And then Lance Lynn was sent to the White Sox in exchange for Dunning. I like Dane Dunning. He just hasn't had any run support this year, and, well, the Rangers haven't played very good baseball. But hopefully next year they'll get another bat in that lineup to support. They're league worst in left field offense. So anything that they do back there should be helpful. Let's go ahead and take Romeo here. Evan McPherson is still there. Does Monkeys have a kicker? They do. So I can expect, hopefully, to get Evan McPherson. I haven't drafted him in a league yet. We'll see how it goes. Broncos defense is the defense I want in the following round. Robbie Anderson, no thanks. McPherson, and now I want Broncos D. Just got to wait for this draft to kind of circle back around. Perk of having the second pick, you have the second pick. Downside of having the second pick, you have the second to last pick in a snake draft. After this draft is over, we'll make our roster move with Michael Gallup and see if we can get somebody off the waiver wire. Hopefully George Pickens will make it to free agency. he should be drafted in this league, honestly, but we'll see how it goes. Come on, people, draft. There we go. Josh Palmer, nice lottery ticket there. Raider, come on, come on, come on. Really wish the final pick hadn't checked out already. Just means I have to wait an extra minute and 30 for no reason. Oh, well, shoot. He had somebody already lined up. Works for me. Okay, so we're going to go to our league page. We're going to manage our IR spot, move Gallup to IR. Move is saved. Now we're going to go to players. I did not see George Pickens drafted, so let's see. Derek Carr is still on the waiver wire as well. He should be a good bye week fill-in for somebody. Now, if I just wanted to be a jerk and not allow somebody to get him, I could go ahead and draft him here. That would actually be a decent move. Not necessarily for my roster, but just to block somebody else, just in case they have a quarterback injury. I'd never play him. But it's the final bench spot on my team. Derek Carr is not worth blocking as a fill-in. I mean, I might be saving myself a point or two on the one time I play them. So I'll pass. I'll go ahead and take Pickens. Now, for those of you who think, maybe you should have gone after Deshaun Watson. He's not eligible till week 13 anyway. The only time you should consider going after Deshaun Watson is after week 10. Put him on the end of your bench, save him for your playoff run, and if you have an injury at quarterback, you have a really good fill-in for the playoffs. If you're drafting him to stash him on the bench for 12 weeks before you can finally play him, you're insane. Don't do that. But thank you guys for joining us for Fantasy Football Night 7. We have drafted, I think, 18 teams so far. We may draft another team on Saturday or two, but we'll see how that goes. Again, tomorrow, join us immediately around 7:30. As second I get home, I'm going to go live with you guys. We're going to do the Rams and Bills game, first game of the year. We're going to do some fantasy football stuff for you guys on Sunday as well, going over waiver wires, how to set your lineup, what to look for, trade-wise, those kinds of things. And then we're going to do the Sunday night football game for you guys, the Cowboys and Buccaneers. We will do the Monday night game for you guys as well. I think that one is Denver and Seattle. That should be a special treat for all of us anyway, just a revenge game. We may even do a game on Sunday. I'm debating which game to do. I'm thinking either Baker versus his former team in Cleveland or the 49ers versus the Bears in the early game. I have to be somewhere in the afternoon, otherwise I'd do the Packers and Vikings. But for me, I'm thinking either the Baker revenge game against the Browns or the 49ers versus the Bears. Two big fan bases there. Two teams with high hopes, but honestly one with real expectations and one not so much. But if you guys paid attention to my Super Bowl predictions, you can check those out on my YouTube page here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. It really does help. You have no idea how important it is to us as we try to grow this channel even more. And the more you guys subscribe, the more that you guys like the videos, the more ability I have to be able to create more for you guys. So the closer I get to that monetization level, I can turn this into something full time. Put out a lot more content. We do put out shorts for you guys as well. We cover the NBA, NFL, MLB, and the NHL as well. So NFL season is upon us. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed all these fantasy football drafts that we've done over the past week and change, and we'll have some actual live football game tomorrow between the defending champion LA Rams versus the Super Bowl favorite this year in the Buffalo Bills. But thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you guys tomorrow evening with the Rams versus the Bills. Y'all